Alright, I think we are live. Let me just do a quick sound test. Let's see if you all can hear me. We're just going live now. This will be a stream about Distant Worlds 2, focusing on the Stellar update, which we released in February, but also talking a bit and previewing a bit about upcoming updates. Alright. Excellent. I see you can hear me. Fantastic. Okay. So let's get started. I will take off these human ships and we'll start taking a look at the game. Hello everyone. Alright, so we had a big update that released late last year called the Fleet Update, which we had hoped would address a lot of the remaining fleet automation issues and ship behavior issues, and it did, but not quite all of them. We realized going into the new year that we needed to put some more effort into improving fleet and ship behavior, especially in the combination of automated and manual fleets and ships, when you have a mix of those and a mix of the different policies all getting involved with each other. But we also noted that there were some performance regressions, some pretty significant ones that were causing folks to have problems with performance again in the late game. So we took a look at those, made some major improvements in a whole bunch of areas, especially performance, and put those out in this recent Stellar update. And we didn't want to wait to promote the Stellar update before releasing it, because we knew that some of our customers were dealing with a lot of these issues. So we went ahead and released it first, and then decided to promote it after the fact. So that's what this is. This is sort of going back and saying, here's what we did, and here's how it will help you if you play Distant Worlds 2, and here's what you can look forward to coming in the future. So I'm going to go ahead and unpause this, and while I go through some of the changes, we'll just go take a look at one of my planets here, where I've built a number of defensive bases, and we'll just kind of hang out in this area while I talk through some of these changes. So, on the Stellar update, one of the first things that we focused on, and we focus on this with every update, are crashes. Now, a lot of the crashes in Distant Worlds 2 are not your typical type of crash to the desktop crash. They're instead crashes that are a little bit in the background. They're multi-threading related. And so we continue to, as we find those, and improve that further, which leads to things in the background, allows the simulation to proceed, allows everything to basically be happier with itself, even since the Stellar update, which I'll talk about a bit later. But tons of crash fixes and of multi-threading related issues that we found. We also had experiencing crashes at launch. This was not typical. DWTO has been for a long time, but these seem to be related to some of the Windows HDR settings. So on some systems and monitors, if you had the Windows Auto HDR set on, it could conflict and cause a crash at launch. We think we finally resolved further reports that since the Stellar update went live. So if you were having problems on your HDR enabled, turning it to SDR or turning off Windows Auto HDR, try the Stellar update. That will likely fix it. So then we'll move on to the performance issues. So we had a definite fleet update where, you may recall last year we had our big hyperspeed update that fixed a lot of the performance issues. And then in the fleet update, we added a lot of extra logic for fleets. And a lot to make sure that ships and fleets behave better. That does come with some performance overhead. We thought there were a few regressions that got away from us, which meant that in the fleet update, if you played into the galaxies, performance could become unacceptable. We fixed all. We also made further significant performance optimizations. The Stellar update uses less memory, and we also did a deep dive into pathfinding, which continues into our current beta updates. Massively improved pathfinding performance, and by that I mean how much time this game spends figuring out path. Fix some long-standing issues that had been slowing the Galaxy simulation down. Going back even with Stellar update is far better performing in all respects than any Distant Worlds 2 update to date. And then we have the measurement tool. So one of the requests that we've at the beginning has been, and we really should have had it in there earlier, but we're a small dev team. It takes us time sometimes, or to even think of them. So the measurement tool is one of the nice things we added UI-wise. So you can take and sort of click anywhere you want, and then drag out this measurement rule. This, the game uses this unit called ems. You can think of them as millions of something, okay? In the game to measure things, we use ems and ks for basically millions and thousands. And what we have now is we have, a little bit later, let me turn that off for now. What we have now is we have that accessible to the player in the game. So the distance between something, and we also use that in helping distances between things. So if you've got something selected and you're looking at something else, you can just the way that really is. How far do you still have to go? So that's the measurement tool. I didn't quite show that part, but let me speak to it. When you've got that shift key held down, you'll see over here it also tells you how far away it is. So again, if we here that's going to Moktaj for spaceport, you hold down the shift key, it now says it's 33, and decreasing m away. And when you, for example, now that all corresponds to what we've been telling you all along, for example, which is what is your speed in this case, and it's a little less than an m, what is your total jump range, 145 m, what is your jump accuracy, what is your fuel range. So all that now translates into what you see on the map, okay? So that came out in the Stellar update in February, is that measurement tool and all the into other parts of the game UI when you're holding down the shift key. And I also wanted to just briefly show you in terms of effect rate sliders. So I know we have spoken a few times about the options that we keep adding in to the settings screen in the game, but I know that we'll tend to go into a lot. But I did want to briefly speak to that today. So if you take a look here, you'll see additional sliders that you can use, and we'll start here with the maximum FPS slider. So this is literally a cap on maximum FPS, and effectively, how many frames it's going to, generate and simulate. You can set this up to 240 or whatever the max on your monitor is. That can, in the cases if you want your system to work a little less, you can also pull that on down and end up with fewer frames being generated. You've got the system load target. This again, I think this is mainly useful for people who have laptops and such where they might not want the system working quite as hard, but this is effectively a goal of how much of what percentage of your total CPU power the game will try to take. You can crank this all the way up to 100, you can crank it down further, and that will be reflected in how many of the cores in your system it tries to use and what percentage of those cores it uses. And then we have this, which is new in the Stellar update, which is the rate and scaling value of graphical effects, which again, if you're running on a lower end system, we've been trying to make Distant Worlds 2 friendlier and friendlier over time with lower end systems by increasing performance, reducing memory footprint, and also giving you these tools like the effect rate to, again, if you want to just scale this down, to have your system work less hard, to hopefully get the performance acceptable on your system, you can. Typically, you don't need to mess with the rest of these things. We do have multiple render modes that you can try. Usually the Vulkan ones might be better on AMD cards, though I would definitely recommend starting with the DirectX one. That's typically the most compatible in general, but if you have any issues with the DirectX one, try the Vulkan ones and see if those work better on your card. We also have under rendering the ability for you to turn on and off different effects in the game. Now again, we have seen instances where on some systems with some drivers or some hardware, people have more issues with some things than others, and there are so many different PC configurations that we decided the best way to address this, in addition to continuing to fix issues and optimize performance on our side, was to give you the ability to adjust these things on your side. Now obviously when you get to things like turning particle effects and weapon effects stuff off, you're affecting how the game is going to look in a pretty significant way, but it can be useful for troubleshooting, or again, if you're on a bit more of a potato system, it may help get the performance to where you want it. We also have this, which I think a lot of people use, which has to do with the nebulas, the storm display effects for nebulas and the nebula rendering density. Some people have said that on their GPUs, the nebulas are more stressful for their GPUs. You can again drag this down, and the game will simply make the nebulas less intensive. They'll be a little bit less visually impressive, but they'll take a lot less GPU power. Same thing here. We have people say that they want the star fields in the background to look different, and on some systems there was a separate issue where on some systems the star field was not interacting well with some HDR monitors. That was fixed, but also we now have the ability to control how dense and how bright the star field in the background is. Okay, so I just wanted to give a quick tour through those, and let me just take a quick look at the chat here. Okay. Stream pauses, stream issues. Okay. Is anyone else seeing stream issues? Let me see if there's anything else I can turn off on my side here. Let's see what the streaming software thinks is going on. The streaming software seems to think everything is alright. I'm reporting no dropped frames here. It's not having any issues here, so I'm hoping that if there are issues with the stream, that it's only on the other side because of hiccups on the internet between you and me, or if it does turn out to be choppy, then I would encourage you all to take a look at the recording afterwards, which hopefully should have no issues whatsoever. Alright, so then let's talk about pathfinding. So in the Stellar update, one of the things we had seen, and I'll turn on the nebula overlay here, we had seen people complaining about was with our nebulas. Nebulas and pathfind the best ways possible, especially in some cases. So where a jump was either starting or ending in deep space especially. So nebulas add a significant additional cost to movement. So let's say for sake of argument that I've got this ship that has a hyperspace speed, let's see, of 720k, alright? That's 720k space. If it's going through a nebula like this galactic storm here, that might be a quarter of that, or a fifth of that, or in the worst cases with it might even be just a tenth of that. So when you look at that, that's a significant pathfinding effect in that a ship that knows that its speed is nebula is going to be willing to go 5 times as far to get around the nebula and still end up with about the same amount of time spent traveling. So that was the first. What we were seeing was that in some cases, because the pathfinding system also really wanted system waypoint as a design choice, is we wanted to prefer system waypoints as effectively navigation beacons of sorts. Possible to travel without them, but to prefer them. That wasn't working as well as it should have been, and in some cases that was leading the combination of those two things pretty ridiculous when it came to certain nebula system and starting point or ending point combinations, especially. The Stellar update has improved a lot of those. I would say it improved the bulk of those cases that we saw. Actually been continuing to work on that after the Stellar update, which I'll talk about again a little bit later, but we're continuing other those pathfinding corner cases to keep improving the pathfinding. Alright, so a lot of continued fleet and fleet behavior improvement, and I'll just say if you had any issues still with fleet and ship behaviors, definitely give the Stellar update a try. I really go through here in detail, but in pretty much every respect, whether it's fleets dealing with queued targets, fleets dealing automatically organize themselves, how they attack, fleets dealing with refueling, with tankers, with their engagement range, how they coordinate with each other. All that was improved again significantly. And then we also have, when it comes to ship behavior, we also fixed some issues with regard to short-range jumps. Probably the most significant new feature in the Stellar update, which I wanted to go through in some more detail today, which is ship design preferences. So what you'll see over here is when you go into your Empire screen, you go into your policy settings. I'll just pause it here for a bit. What you'll see here is a category called weapon and component focuses. And again, this is something that we first introduced part of this in an earlier update, but in the Stellar update. And we're going to be continuing to make improvements to this going forward, but I think at this point it is quite handy and quite usable. I'm just going to kind of go through what this means. Now, you'll start with defaults here, and the defaults vary by faction that you're playing. But you can now set, for all these categories, automation to focus on in terms of your ship designs and your research. Okay, so I want to be clear about the fact that this affects both areas. If I say I would prefer my close-in weapon family to be railguns as it is here, and I can choose between no preference or any of the others. But if I say I prefer it to be railguns, when it researches weapons, if I leave it, my research to automated, it will tend to prefer the railgun on this railgun tree for research for close-in weapons, as you see here, okay, where I've got the human hail cannons. If I also set this, it's going to focus on automated ship designs. If we take a look, for example, at my frigates here, it's going to also focus on those railgun weapons, in this case, for its close-in weapons. So you can see this is a close-in weapon, a railgun. So that's what this automated design is now prioritizing for my ships. If I change this preference to something else, if I say, you know, I want blaster designs my ships, unless the blasters are vastly inferior to something else that I have, it's going to now stick blasters on that ship. There is still a little bit of waiting going on. We try as possible, say, well, okay, it's going to really look at this preference and say, I'm going to go with what the player has specified here, unless the difference is tech level 1 blasters and tech level 5 railguns, and you're telling it still use blasters, then it's probably going to consider using a railgun. But barring complete, it's going to use what you specified here. And in addition to that, there's an additional weighting on components that are preferred for the faction. So again, in the case of humans, it will tend to fan in line because they have a unique faction-specific type of railgun. So you can now set these for each of these. So again, in this case, missiles for the standoff weapon, intercept weapon. Intercept weapons are your point defense weapons. They are also the weapons used for your fighters. We are planning in the future to split out the sort of fighter priorities, but right now what you said, what's going to be on your ships and your fighters. We also have a do not use here for this one, which means if you want, it just won't use intercept weapons. I don't want you don't want weapon slots being used for point defense on your ships, so you can always choose do not use there. Otherwise, we're saying, you know, normal intercept weapon priority. It's going to weight between of your weapon slots, how much it really wants to have intercept weapons on your ships. And then again, you can tell it what's my preferred weapon family for intercept weapons. In this case, I set it to missiles, so that again, the weapon would be used there. We got a similar thing with ion weapons. So by default, the automated ship designer would always want to put some other weapons on your ship. So it would want to, it would typically want to put at least an ion weapon on there. If it had area weapons available, it would typically want to put at least one area weapon on there. These new preferences, you can now tell it, you know what, I don't want ion weapons on my ships. Or you can say, you know, let's make those a low priority, and let's say that the first where we start considering trying to fit them in is destroyers. Now you could go all the way down to escorts, or say, you know, it's only when we get to battleships that I really want you to try to make room for ion weapons. So we're giving you a lot more flexibility. And this is it was both one of our guiding principles at the beginning of creating Distant Worlds 2, and it's also something that we've heard loud and clear from the community that they want us to and building on, is this idea of guided automation to sort of in that gap between it's fully manual and I'm fully controlling it, and it's fully automated, to have it be automated with a lot more player guidance. So that's what we're going to be focusing on in a lot of different areas as we can, is to provide more guidance to the automation. Families is the same basic idea. Again, there are area weapons. Those are a type of weapon. And now you can say, again, do not use, or choose the priority for them and choose the first role where it will try to make room for area weapons on your ship hulls and your designs. Weapon family to prefer for area weapons. Same thing with bombardment weapons. You can see here I've set the priority low, and I say the first role where I would like you to try to fit a bombardment weapon is the battleship. And I want you to use the missiles as our bombardment weapons. We look at the fighter bay priority, and again say, I've set it to high. You can say, do not put fighter hangars on my ships. Don't waste space on hangars. And fighters, I did the reverse in this case. I said, let's use fighters. Expanded this beyond weapons and said, okay, what about reactors? Do you want your reactors to be, do you not care? Do you want fuel efficiency, raw power output, because there are different reactor families? Do you want to focus on recharge rate or strength, or you don't care? For hyperdrives, jump initiation time, energy efficiency, speed. For engines, energy efficiency, raw thrust. So you've got all these ways now that, in order to get it to sort of adjust your automated research and automated ship design priorities. One last thing I'll say about it is that if you are using this, understand that if you don't have, ship design and research automated, which you don't have to, you're in charge, let's say, of research, and you've left your ship designs automated, and you're researching in completely different categories than what your ship design preferences here say, then a bit of an issue. So just make sure you check these and make sure that they are in sync if you're keeping your ship design automated with what you are really focusing your research. If there are any questions on that, feel free to put them in chat. Otherwise, we will move on. We continue to improve the Empire AI. That includes in areas like how it queues purchases, recruits troops, how it deals with economic shortfalls, and so on. I'll unpause it now again. Tweaks and improvements to diplomacy among empires, especially fixing some messages that were not relaying everything that they needed to relay when it came to peace offers. With growth rate calculations on colonies, and made further improvements to colonization ship behavior. And we also found in doing the Gazurian, the DLC, the recent DLC, that there were some issues with how the colony conquest was being handled when it came to the bonus tech that you could get. In some cases that was picking a tech that it shouldn't have been picking. So we took a look through and made sure, and this affects the Gazurian scouring event as well, and we took a look and just made sure that that was actually being chosen. The way it's intended to work is if you conquer a colony, it will take a look and say, well, in what category does the owner of this colony have some things that you don't have? And it's going to pick something from those categories, and that's where you're going to get that bonus tech on conquest. A planet that is not owned by someone who has any higher tech than you, then you're typically not going to get anything. So conquest is a great way to, tech-wise, with someone who is higher tech than you, it's not something you can really farm against lower tech opponents, or at least it shouldn't be as of the Stellar update. We made some more improvements also on war scores. You'll see I'm in 2 wars here, and we just fixed a couple of issues that we found where some of the bases were giving much higher war score than they should have been. We made some further tweaks to pirate tech progress. What we had done in the fleet update, and this was one of the key issues we wanted to fix ASAP, is we had fixed a previous problem that was preventing the pirates from getting tech when they were raiding research bases. And so we fixed that issue, but we found that skirmish here with Dayut. We found that when we fixed that issue, that the pirates could progress far too quickly, unfortunately. So we made some more adjustments in the Stellar update to fix that issue that was resulting in too strong, far too fast, because their tech was progressing too quickly. Stellar update, their tech progresses more reasonably, and you shouldn't be running into the pirates that you were seeing in some of the fleet update games. We also found and fixed accounts. There were just some pirates that were being generated a bit too strong, coming in a tech level or too higher than they should have been, and we fixed those as well. Made some, added a bit more mod support, and then we did some rebalancing in addition to fixes to a variety of DLC issues. And the main thing we did do some balance changes. We and the Icaro, especially giving them a few more ways to get growth rate through. But we also fixed some issues and effectively rebalanced and because some of the conditional events that they had were not quite wanted them to be, and were making them too strong. The first one was the waste nothing event, which was in too many cases in completing whatever you had queued, which was obviously a bit exploited. Normally be a concern, but it was just hyper accelerating them also as when they were being played as the AI. We adjusted that to again mean that it would work as intended. And the way it's intended to work is that when you're using the waste nothing, who are very good at reverse engineering things, that it'll again look at what is this ship has that is better than what you already have, and then it'll kind of give you a boost, not necessarily a full those categories. If you're again retiring something that's not higher tech, it's not going to give you an advantage. Previously it was. And the Scarum and the tribal conflict now gives a bit more of a happiness penalty. So those things are meant to bring the Gazurians a bit actions in terms of their balance. And if we take a look, this is a normal difficulty game, so I'm not, this is not something that I would normally be really challenged. I'll set it to hard difficulty, but you can see in this one I've been playing as the humans, and we've got the Gazurians here. They're not that far behind the game. The Tikans are about the same as me. We've got the Quamino, who are also in contention. But I will say, I've been fighting a pretty good war against these Daiut here, who in terms of the victory are not really close to me, but they had been giving me a lot of trouble. I've marshaled some allies, got them to go to war with me again, brought some allies in on their side, so they are now losing pretty badly, but they gave me a run for my money. That is definitely something that the AI will do now. Between the changes in the fleet update and the stellar update, that the AI is a lot better than what it used to be. Again, I would encourage you folks who have not played Distant Worlds 2, have not played since before the fleet update at least, to take another look at it. Are playing much better now. I think you'll find that a lot of parts of the game are just and working well. Alright, so with that said, I'm now going to preview about what's coming. I'm not seeing any questions, just in case Twitch has done what it sometimes does, which is that it stops updating the chat for me. Alright, now it looks like we're caught up. Going to just preview a few things that are coming in the future, and if you all have any in chat, and I'll answer them as I can. So what we are working on now is we are working the next update after the stellar update. I mean, we don't have a final name for it yet, but it's basically we're finally going back and revisiting some of the base factions, and I'll be giving a more thorough stream on this later in March. We're going to be releasing this in the beginning of April, somewhere around there, and I'll fix with a more detailed stream of this. But there are a bunch of changes going into this that I wanted to cover. So let me first talk about some of the fleet engagement stuff, so that players have also talked to us about many times before, is how to have a... We've given these ratings before, of which was very useful in that you don't want your fleet to really engage much beyond 50% of fuel range if they're going to have enough left after they fight to still get back to refuel. And we had a whole bunch of different settings that you could use which were authoritative, so the fleets would not engage. But we didn't have a way of previously visualizing that. So I'm just going to show you this. What we have here, I'll switch it to... So for instance, this is a defense fleet, and you'll see that the engagement range is set to 50 M. And so now that I've got this on, when I've got this fleet selected, I can see the engagement range. If I want to set this, boom, now I can see what 100 M is. If I want to set this to 200 M, boom, that's 200 M. If I want to set this to 33% of fuel range, and so on. So that gives you just a lot more ability to customize those fleet engagement ranges and be sure of on for all fleets. You'll see that we're going to have blue as defense fleets, red as attack fleets, yellow as invasion fleets, and orange as raid fleets. Got my red attack fleet that has a pretty big engagement range. It's set to Venari, which is right over here, and I've got it set to 33% of fuel range. I can set that to, let's say, 200 M. So that can now attack most anything within that whole area of the empire, and I've got it set to automated now, so it is doing some attacks there. I've got invasion fleets that are, again, within this area. Invasion fleets, like the 6th invasion fleet. I think it must be the 10th one. Yeah, the 10th one has the 200M range. You can see now the visualization at this point of all the fleet engagement ranges, and what they can reach. I'll set the 6 to that too. And as you get more of them, as they overlap, it's sort of intense. And you can notice that from my defense fleets, I've got a bunch of them set here. Again, you can see that there's 2 here, there's 2 here, so those blues are a little bit more intense. Personally, I like to prefer to just go with a selected fleet one for normal play. And then I can just sort of click through them and not have to sort of see all of it at once. But sometimes you want to see it too. So that's the new fleet engagement range UI, which I think will help with, again, your guided automation, setting up, making sure that your scheme for how your defense fleets are organized, where you're attacking properly. Okay. Next thing I wanted to take a look at is some of the new human stuff. So we've got, for this I'm going to pause this. We'll save this here. I'm going to go for a sec. We're just going to take a quick look at these. And the new base faction changes are in beta now. I'm playing with a new this week. We expect anyway this week, 1.2.1.2, but the one that's out there now already has the first pass on these base factions. The first part of these affect the humans and the Mortal. So you'll notice that here, for the humans, it's for them to try to, gameplay-wise, bring them up to the same level that the DLC factions were. And I'll go through this with the Mortal too, and we'll just talk through this for a bit. So, for the humans, if you resort base, you can now get a 2-year boost to trade and tourism income through your empire, and a boost to colony income and tourism for the colony where the exposition is held. That's something that can happen once every 5 years. When war is declared on you now, you get a choice of whether you're a new general with 2 positive traits. That's the Hero of the Hour feature. When you sign a new defense treaty, you get a new ambassador, but you also get internal debates, which leads to a decrease to colony happiness for a couple of years, as your people debate whether this was a wise decision to tie your empire. When you have this heightened security, when a foreign intelligence mission against you succeeds but is detected, you can again choose to spend a spy to get a 2-year boost to counter-espionage. So it gives... Well, one of the things with the humans is we look at them as probably the most flexible faction, that we wanted to support a lot of different play styles with them. And so we tried to give them some abilities that correspond to all the different main areas of play, whether it's war or trade or what have you, and colonization in this case. So for humans, you may know that humans like to colonize continental planets. It's one of their victory conditions. Now, when you colonize or conquer a continental planet, you'll get a free random colonization tech advance as well. Their carriers are now plus 50 size. We gave them some unique leader traits that help with ambassadors, leaders, spies, and scientists. And we expanded. They have some unique techs. Bulwark missile battery. They have their unique Gyrfalcon starfighters, and they have this new facility called the Foundation for Galactic Cooperation. All of those have been expanded to sort of full tech trees, brand new thing. And we also revisited all the base governments. So you can see here, for example, with Republic, I mean, all these had a look through everything, but the main thing is a lot of them got special abilities, and I'll just briefly go through those, and we'll go back and take a look at the Mortal. So we've got the treaty bonuses here. So republics now get a straight up boost to their colony income for trade agreements. If they have free trade agreements, the income per free trade agreement, there are diminishing returns on this after a while, but it can still add up to a pretty significant income boost. I'll show you that when I get back into my game that I was playing, where I have a human republic that I'm playing. So it'll basically add these up. So if you have like one restricted, one limited, one free trade with another faction or independent, then you're going to get a boost to your colony income Um, and that's Republic. Then we're going to take a look at democracy. So democracy has enterprising spirit, which means that it's every 10 years or so on average that you're going to get a random positive event. So either in research, diplomacy, espionage, or military, just something good is going to happen to you that you can't really expect necessarily. There is one other thing with democracy. There is now a chance of character dismissal with leader change. A pretty powerful, democracy and republic both are pretty powerful government types. The one disadvantage that they've historically had is that their leadership changes pretty quickly. They don't get the long-term leader that a lot of the other government types have, so their leaders don't get as much of time and traits. The advantage is that they don't get the massive happiness penalties when their leaders eventually do change, causing maybe some kind of rebellion or civil war. Instead, they get actually a small boost when the leader changes. But with democracy, the leader changes are considered significant. There's a chance that any character that you have might be dismissed because they're too closely tied to the previous leader's political faction, if you will. So when the previous leader goes away after 8 years or so, then they might, and then you'll get new leaders. So democracy just cranks it up a little bit more in terms of the changeover of characters. We'll also take a look at monarchy here. And monarchy gets 2 new features here. It gets a flagship, so you can pick one military ship, gives it some nice boosts to targeting, countermeasures, maneuvering, speed, and damage control. And when your flagship destroys a ship of equal or greater size, you get a happiness boost. But if your flagship is destroyed, you get a happiness penalty. So you get to have one ship that's just better than everything else, but hopefully you'll lead it from victory to victory if it's defeated. The other thing with monarchy is that you will now have, in addition to the pre-built planetary palace that monarchy gets, you will now have the fact that all wars you declare are always considered justified. So with all other governments, if you declare war and it's not justified, it's going to give you war weariness. But with monarchy, it's always justified. Let's look at military dictatorship. So we added some new features here as well. And you'll see here what I talked about in that, different governments start with different techs. And in this case, keep your leader for 60 years, but they change through a coup d'etat. And it's a highly disruptive change that can lead to planets splitting away or even a civil war. But you have the war world, which has, if you can basically, in your empire, and you can say, this is a war world. And so what happens is for 2 years, and the cost of 20,000 credits, you're going to get a doubling of troop recruitment rate, ship construction rate, and facility construction rate. It also increases, but reduces colony happiness for 2 years. So you can basically take a planet and just turn it into a massive construction and recruitment center of war world when you need it to be. They also get the benefit, which is military dictatorships are encouraged to have high garrison levels at their planets. If they do, then they get more happiness or decreased unhappiness. Effectively, they're police states. So the more they have their population under control. So they tend to prefer large armies. Alright, that's military dictatorship. Then we'll take a look at feudalism. Let me just refresh this again. Had a bunch of new features as well as a review of its various values. So feudalism gets upgraded militia troops. So normally militia, which are the troops that get automatically raised if your planet is invaded. So your population, just the number of people you have on a planet, generation of militia when a planet is invaded. They're not troops you normally have. They're basically like your National Guard, if you will, or your reserves that just appear when the planet's invaded, and they're normally much weaker than normal infantry. They're about half the strength of your normal infantry. Then your militia are actually the same as your base infantry. They don't get the upgrades that your base infantry would get if you've researched them, but they're the same as your base unupgraded infantry, which is roughly double the strength. Now the downside of that is that, of course, if one of your colonies breaks away from you, which can happen in feudalism, it's also more difficult to reconquer it if you choose to bring it back in the fold militarily. They also have feudal obligations, so and you're a feudalism government for 2 years after war begins. You get double the recruitment rate throughout your empire. And they have what we called a privateer navy, where nobles within your empire will fund construction and operation of a small number of escorts to defend civilian shipping and civilian bases. These ships are funded from your private economy, so this is from what normally happens in Distant Worlds 2. If you're playing as feudalism, you will see escorts that are built that are not under your state control. They'll have a little star next to them in your ship list, and they will go and kind of do their own thing. And your sort of ratio of escort, guard, etc. missions for your ships that aren't in fleets, they'll respect that, but they'll generally be doing their own thing within those parameters. And that can be quite helpful against problems like pirates. They're obviously not as useful when it comes to full-scale war, but when it comes to escorting ships, they can definitely help. And they don't come out of your state budget. So that's part of feudalism. Now let's take a look at the Mordelin. So what we have here with the Mordelin, again, we took a look through all their, some of these stats changed. I won't go through all those details, but so we took some things that had previously been faction events that were just on a timer, and we changed them into conditional events, which means they happen when certain things happen, which gives the player a bit more agency, and we tried to give the player a few more choices. So you declare war, you now get a 2-year boost to Mordelin population growth, and you also get your choice of either a big boost to troop recruitment or a big boost to troop attack strength. That's your warrior wave. And you've got your patriotic on you instead of you declaring it. Then you get the same 2-year boost to population growth, but now you get a choice with either reducing colony corruption or war weariness reduction. So the Mordelins, as we know, are pretty, they're effectively a warrior culture. So this makes them significantly stronger, whether they're declaring war or having war declared against them. In addition, when you invade and conquer an enemy colony world, get a Know Your Enemy event, which gives you a choice of a 2-year boost to either espionage and counter-espionage, or targeting and countermeasures as they study their opponents in more detail and learn how to better fight against them. Also similar to the Gazurian rivalry event, except it's not 2 characters fighting against each other and one of them dies. It's just that you periodically get a choice between 2 characters from your leader, your admirals, or your generals to undergo a trial of arms. And there's about a 75% chance or so that they're going to get a positive, give them a positive trait. There's about a 20, I think, maybe 25% chance that they'll get a negative trait. But by and large, they're going to get a positive trait from this. They'll either prove themselves through the trial of arms, or they will, prove that they are unworthy. That's going to happen periodically. That can help with Mordelin also with achieving those experienced admirals and generals. If you continue to have your admirals and generals go through these combat trials. All of their ships and spaceports now have +1 to their reactive armor rating, which is that flat reduction of damage coming through armor. Their hull ratings now all have +1. We also gave them a new block armor unique armor component that has higher reactive rating than most armor that they can research. They got some unique character traits, boosting increasing weapons damage and targeting, troop attack strength, again, troop maintenance savings, and we expanded their pulse torpedoes a little bit in addition to adding this new block armor. And we revisited their victory condition feedback that there were some problems with some of the Mordelin victory conditions. That was confirmed and those were fixed. Alright, and we've already gone through the government types, so that sort of covers some of those base faction revisits, the preview of those. So we'll go back in here now, and we will play for a bit. Alright, I'll give you guys the quick tour of what's going on here now. I am playing as a human republic, and I wanted to show you how the sort of colony income bonuses have stacked up. So you'll see over here under colony income for my bonuses, I'm getting 4% from restricted trade, 2% from limited trade, 13% from free trade, colony income bonus. You can see my colony, my cash flow is very healthy here. One of the things about playing as a republic is you will not suffer for money. Tile guilds. Democracies are also pretty good at that, but I think with the recent government changes, the republics are in the best shape for that. I've got two wars going on, both of which I'm doing pretty well on. We have a war with the Web of Destiny. The Web of Destiny is over here. They've been messing with the Icarus storyline. You'll know that this is part of their storyline. So they've emerged here, and they actually did manage to come and take the world there, which I took back. So we have them that we're fighting against, and they're probably going to be the easiest to knock out. Of the Kandrella Despotism, which is a Daiute faction over here that we've been fighting several wars against. They've also been having some trouble with the Quamino, the Pandaria Guild up here. And you can see also here one of the other improvements that we've made in the next round of updates, which is these borders. We finally where two empires meet. So that's especially important when you get, I don't think we have an example of it right here. There are many cases where you get empires with similar colors together. I mean, you can sort of see it in the light green. So in that case now it's a lot more clear where one empire ends and the other begins. I'm sorry, it took that is now in, so you're going to have more distinct borders where empires meet. So the Quamino up here have been fighting, and we were sort of fighting over some worlds here, back and forth, and I think it's time for us to back to them as well. So we've got the Web of Destiny up here, the Kandrella Despotism over here, and then we have friends. So you can see in the handshakes, those are all the treaties we have with them. So you can see we're very friendly with their harmonious Icaro-Utopia and the combined Epialxy Empress. We're also in pretty good with the Eta Junction Cooperative and the Igdarian Technocracy. But the expansive Gadurian Nest we have fought a war against. The Kandrella Despotism we're not that happy with. Pretty good with these Teekans down here, the Velocia Prime Industries. In terms of the victory conditions, it's the expansive Gazurian Nest and the Pandaria Guild that are our closest competitors in terms of overall expansion and strength. So is to take my fleets and try to take out either the Web of Destiny or Daiute next to me, the Kandrella Despotism. So I guess that's the first thing I'll ask from those of you who are watching. What would your preference be here? Fleet. I have 2 invasion fleets, and I have about 7 defense fleets that are kind of scattered through my empire right now. Those are all fleets here. I do have a couple of colonies out here that I probably should be building some defense fleets to move them over there. I recently Daiute. So let me throw that out to the channel and see if you guys have any preference for the Web of Destiny or going for the Daiute. Sorry, they're both Daiute. Going for the Web of Destiny or going for the Kandrella Despotism. Shall we go for? I'm just looking through the war target. So that's their home spaceport, some mining stations there. Another one there. We certainly... The Daiute on the left are a bit closer, the Kandrella Despotism. The Web of Destiny might be a bit weaker. While we're talking, I'm going to build a Planetary Administration Center and a fighter base here. Go ahead also and build a small spaceport there and a defensive base to also help. And we'll do the same thing. A Planetary Administration Center, a buried ancient battleship, and then we'll go. Yeah, we'll build a small spaceport and a defensive base to build because these are small planets. We got about 200 million Gazurians on that one. 75 million Gazurians in a, because it's not very suitable to humans, so that's not a surprise. If you all can hear me, do you have any preference on, I'll make my own choice. Last chance if anyone has a preference. This is the Foundation for Galactic Cooperation I was talking about earlier, which gives me a boost to diplomacy, espionage, and trade income. And I still need the Enhanced Commerce Center and scanner jamming to grab that. Just so we can build one of these. Get that going. Yeah, we need a boost in high-tech research. So we'll definitely complete this structured research. We might need to build some of these specialized but we get a nice boost here too. When you face situations like the other thing I really would like here, those are crucial, but I got very unlucky this time in terms of my sensor. Normally you find enough boosts to all research or sensor research to be able to advance in this. This time I didn't. I only have 4% in sensor research bonuses. Build some research facilities to let me get over this threshold to be able to get proper galactic long-range sensors. Spend a little bit of time trying to go down this route of getting these special facilities. You'll see each of these, like the Science Academy, gives a plus to all research areas. That raises my bonus by 10%. And then we have these, which within each of their sub-areas. So when you've built all those, then you basically across all research areas, which gets you past all those initial gating thresholds of specialized research facilities that give you another 20% in most of these areas. And eventually you get the Galactic Science Center towards the end of the game, which gives you another plus 20% in all research. But those are all ways that you can overcome the bad luck of what areas you got a lot of bonuses in and what areas you didn't. Alright, I am not any votes on that. Let me just make sure that the stream is going through well. I'm going to pick who we're going up against. Unless my chat is not working. I'm going to switch my construction policy for base construction to automated and also to repair these things. Go. They're offering us a whole bunch of stuff for credits, sure. Happy to do that. Never hurts to have some. Alright, so I guess I'm going to make the choice here because I haven't foundations. Oh, it looks like... Okay, I just got a message that hang on, let me pause this and let me restart my Twitch on the side here, which apparently is not giving... Sorry, guys. I only have one monitor here in system. I've got my extra little iPad here that I'm trying to watch this through with a Twitch app, but apparently now the chat has showed up. Okay, let me catch up with chat. Sorry, everyone. Oh my goodness. So... Alright, let me catch up with some of the questions. I don't know that I'm seeing all of them, but I'm certainly seeing some of them. It's not letting me go back to the very beginning of the chat. But, focus is defaulted to the race you pick at the start of the game. Yes, every faction has a set of defaults, and then you can tweak them further, but by default that's what the AI will use as well. So we've tried to make sure that those we would thematically expect that faction to research and design in their Alright, let's take a look at this. Glad to hear the stellar that was from Bucky or Buck. Let's see. Okay. On the early one might be better. Yeah, but I am now. Okay. So let's see. Left the Kandrila. Alright, so that's what we will do. So I've got my attack fleet already based here. So, yep, that's good. I'd love to have some of those the spaceports built to support my fuel forward as well. Just out of curiosity, let's just take a quick look here. So if we limit it to Kazlan, we do got this selected. It highlights all the filtered new mining glowy area, so I can see that over here, Naboo 5 here has a location that I'm not mining, so I can queue that. And I can see that Sipan 3 here, which is in their space, but that's okay. We're at war, so I can build a mining station in their base, in theory. In threat and in a friendly nation's border, so I can't build there. But I can queue these two, absolutely. And I'll in fact unqueue these, as those. And I'll unqueue this so that the next two construction ships that go out should build in these two. So that'll give on right in that area. And then because the way mining stations work is they do sort of a hub and spoke mine from those stations, they will then bring that Kazlan chat now, and hopefully that will continue. They will bring that Kazlan back to the closest spaceport. So this spaceport, and we've got the other spaceport up at Venare that's also building. So once those are built, then normally, you know, the size of the planet will affect also the demand and how much terribly big planets, but once you build a spaceport there, and then once you also set that spaceport as the home base to a fleet we're going to want to make sure there's enough here for the fleet to operate, so freighters will start bringing things to those locations. Set to Venare. I'm going to take a defense force. So what do we have here? We need to move a defense force. So let's see, we'll take the 7th Defense Force. We'll rebase that to Venare here. They set home base there to Venare, and you guys go refuel Venare, so that's a defense force over there. Fleets. Okay, and then we'll take the 8th. The 8th is up here, and we'll need them to stay there to 9th as a spare. Then we'll move over here to Maxus, and tell it to refuel at Maxus. And then finally those. The 6th invasion, because the Web of Destiny had taken a couple planets over here, but we're going to move these over to this area as well, and I think Maxus is probably the best this way. So we got the 6th, I have to stop scrolling. So we got the 6th invasion fleet. Oops. Said it's hello. And the 10th invasion fleet, 140,000. Said it's home base to here as well. And we'll just tell it to refuel there. Okay, so that's we're now in the process of rebasing our fleets forward. So we're going to have our attack fleet and our 2 invasion fleet to help support them and draw fuel there. We're doing the same thing here. We got a new defense fleet at Venare defense fleet. We'll hopefully guard those while our attack fleets go forth. And yes, there will be the recording on Twitch, but I think we typically also take a YouTube channel as well. So you should check both of those places for recording after the fact. Storage research, which I did to again extend our fleet range. When your fleets have more range, they have more time on station, fight for distant locations. Sure, we can build a fighter base there too. Other planets actually. Let's these fighter bases are only 500 credits. Let's grab a couple more in case the Web of Destiny gets ideas. We have built at our main planet here. You'll see that we've got Spencer Armor Barracks. So they're going to be recruiting some of these other types of troops, and that will move to our other planets. That'll also help with our invasion fleets over time. I just haven't here yet. Yeah, so far we just have infantry and armor in this one, and infantry and armor in that. I'm not seeing that those are in there yet, but they will be over time. We could also manually build them, but I'm not going to pause for that right now. But think to get ready to attack. And let's take a look at their target. Look at Kandrila Despotism. So it's giving me and this planet as very takeable now. So this is, from what we know, and a few Agdarians. And we think it's what happened there? Oh, it switched to that. I don't know why it switched to that. So it's got 1,200. See, it's telling us here 133 from population, militia, and estimated. What I typically like to do is I like to send in an attack fleet to sort of, and then after that, send in the invasion fleets. So we'll try to do it that way. Let's see if our attack fleet is getting ready, but it still has a couple of ships catching up. We can see our invasion fleets moving over. Defense fleet's going back to retrofit because they needed to retrofit with larger fuel cells. Built the spaceports there for them to retrofit at. This one's moving to Venare. And apparently that's a mid-game threat to deal with. Should we end the war with the Web of Destiny? Oh, hang on. I must have misclicked on something. But we have a problem here. I think I misclicked on something and the war with these guys ended. Let's fix that. Oh, did I still have that? Did I have that automated somehow? Apparently I screwed that. We're going to get a reputation penalty. Alright, we'll let our preparations finish, then we're going to launch a war on them. And we'll, as soon as we take those planets. Anything said about Shakturi? So we are currently, we're trying to keep the flow of updates going as well, but our main development focus now is about 80% on Shakturi. We are still hoping that that will release this summer. We are trying very hard. It's not yet at the point where we are in the sort of testing and polish stage, but we're hoping that we will be in the testing and polish stage, you know, in the next month or two. So more to say about that, and I think within a couple months there'll be more being said about Shakturi. Assault pods are not in there yet, but as I mentioned, we are going to be that system and expand it, and I think the area of boarding and the area of fighters need to do a bit more about. I think we also to help with further specialization. So right now, for example, you can have your preferred close-in weapon family, but you can't say I don't want close-in family, but you can't say I don't want standoff weapons. We want to eventually also allow it to support hyper-specialized designs that only close-in or only standoff and only ion or only area weapons, etc. Places that we can go with that in the future once we have the bandwidth for that. Sure, let's have the Teekans come and visit us more. And let's crash. We have a lot of money. Oh, you don't want that anymore. I should show you. This is, again, I'm playing the next beta update right now. You'll notice we decided to put that back in and try it out. We had a meeting within the development team, and we think that with all the performance of the Stellar updates, and that we've been continuing to work on since, as you can see, even at 8x speed, here. So you can now run at 8x. It'll also now go down to 1/8 speed as well, if you want to, for when you're in a very intense period of war, for example. Put it back to normal speed. While I am doing this though, no, I don't see any pirate targets that I can really take out now. I think I've cleared out all the ones that were in my area. No pirates that are currently a threat, so it's just a matter of getting ready for this war. So I'll speed it up a bit. Colonize Kalsetu. Lots of Beskara. Lorideus, we could send a ship there. Empire as well, we're not just humans. We did bring in a Gazurian independent colony early on, so we are finding a way to live with among our people. And so far it's been going well. I'm sure they have no long-term plans to eat us. And alright, great. So we finished our structured research, which means I'm gonna... And did I haven't... Yeah, I did terraform that. Alright. Oh, had an espionage mission against us. Let's take a look here. We have enough spies, sure. We'll spend a spy and get our heightened security against the Daiute, as they're pretty darn good at espionage. And espionage missions of various kinds against you, and I use espionage in the broad term, technically in the game. You've got espionage, you've got and all that stuff. I'm just saying espionage for all that. You don't want too many of those things succeeding, so I think when you're, it's not a bad thing. I'm just going to refresh this one more time. We found a continental planet colony range that's at the edge of the Tikan Empire. I don't think there's anything else we really want to go for right this instant. My defense fleets have pretty good coverage now. We'll go back to selected fleet here. No thank you, no right now. And I think that we are also going to queue up. Can't do those yet, we need more high-tech research. Alright. We'll do the military academy. We need to take some research locations. So way over here, we're not going to get that anytime soon. This one is achievable though. We can get a fleet over, that's way over there. We should prioritize grabbing this one. Of some nebulas. Let's see, I've got spaceports here. Magative. Let's build an attack fleet over at that space. Oh, it can't actually, doesn't have the resources. Let's see. Yossel or Voktir would also be fine. Okay, Yossel, we can build that. Let's try that. We'll build this attack fleet area from the threats that are there. That's in the middle of a gravitic storm nebula place. That's this. Oh my gosh. 20,000 strength 40. That's going to be a tough research location to grab. We might need more than one attack fleet for that, folks. Colonies getting raided by pirates. And we had a hive report. Where did that happen? So the hive report way over there. Okay, so the hive is way up there. And the Igdarians are offering a defense pact. I don't know that we want a defense pact with them just yet, but let's see what else we have a really good diplomat with them right now boosting. So let's grab a bunch of these things. Can do all those things. We'll save the defense pact for a bit later. That triggered our Great Art Exposition at our home planet, which is nice. Like we found a Xenox independent there. Cleus. And they're not far. Our empire is sort of split into two parts here. We have one part here on this side of the Mordelin and another part here on the other side of them. Absolutely. We could absolutely integrate these guys, and I think that would be a good thing for us. Let me slow this down. I don't know why I still had it on 4x. So let's do that. These space cats on our side. Did we have them set to diplomacy? Yep. So we'll do that. Alright, and I think it's about time to get this war kicked off again against the Kandrella despotism. Yep, that's fine. It's not justified at this time. Go ahead and do that. So we have one of their, we already have detected one of their fleets planning to head for, we have a bunch of stuff here. The Maxis is, it's only 160 million, but we'll add another one to build after that. And we've got the 6th Invasion Fleet, the 10th Invasion Fleet, and the 9th Defense Force. That should be good enough to keep those folks point. So what we will do now is we will plan our attack. Let's see. We know they have a defense force here. It's a fleet, attack fleet with 3,009 strength. We know they have a colony world here which we could potentially take. And they have a bunch. We could go for economic warfare and try to take out a bunch of their mining stations first. We could try to go for a coup de main, try to defend it. We could stay back and sort of absorb their first punch and then counter punch. Yeah, I'm assuming the issues I'm having with chat are related to my internet here is fine, and again the streaming software is not reporting any issues, so I think this is just some kind of general. If I look at this 3,000 strength attack fleet and 700 strength defense fleet and I compare it to ours, this attack fleet is 3,700 strength, our defense forces are about 2,000 strength, invasion fleets are about 5,500 troops. We should be able to handle their punch, no problem. Oh, look at that. Visibility here to see that I think this is the Quamino. War. The Quamino are kind of hanging out there. Maybe I know they were at war. Maybe the Quamino just have their war end. Let's take a look. Oh yeah, they're actually, the Quamino are helping them now. Oh, the Quamino, hang on. Oh. Oh heck. I think the Quamino are going to help them. Gated vassalization deal there. Well, let's go grab this other colony in the context of exciting happenings soon. I think I'm going to go ahead and grab that other colony. So we're going to queue this for attack. I'm going to go ahead and also to just head right over here. And, excuse me, the first attack fleet. Let's go ahead and attack these guys. And we'll just go ahead and do this. Parent attack. Parent attack. Sure. I'm gonna go ahead and attack me at Maxis. And we've got an attack, in fact, underway here, so one of their fleets has arrived. We've got a combat here against their attack fleets. And an invasion. And from that side. Alright. We've got our invasion fleet getting ready to jump there. What we will do is we will take this defense fleet and also jump it in here. So... Sadly, I think I moved my fleets out just in time. That seemed to be this game when I'm streaming. Hello, Korosami. I'm glad you're just a smart student. Thank you for your support. And again, I'm sorry about the stream. I'm hoping again that the recording will take care of that. We haven't... Normally I would have waited to get these things set up. Head and poke to the bear here, but unfortunately I did not. So we have them invading, and they're gonna take my planet here, take their planet at the same time, and obviously over time come back. Since they are gonna take my planet, I'm gonna go ahead and scuttle. Doing pretty well. All these ships are damaged, but they've done a bit of a number here. We've got these troop transports left, but we lost the planet. They needed 2 defense fleets there. But we got our attack fleet and our 2 invasion fleets now, and we will see how that goes. strange. I'm looking at what's going on here, and it's not stressing my system out. I'm wondering if there's anything else that I need to be doing here. Settings are the same as I've used before with no problems on other streams. Same. I don't think it's an issue here for me. From everything OBS is saying, high bitrate, no dropped frames, it's barely stressing my system, so I don't think it's the issue of general internet problem happening, unfortunately. With everything that was going on yesterday on the internet, that may well be the case. So we're going to watch the fleets approach now. And over here we've got, is their attack fleet back here? This is their invasion fleet going back to pick things up, but now I've got 2 defense fleets here. So my defense fleets are continuing to take some of their out. So I lost 5 troops, they captured a colony, they've lost 4 military ships. So we are winning the war in space, per se. We just, the ground side. I assume. Alright, so here's our attack fleet. They've got fighters as well. We've got hail cannons, concussion missiles, both starfighter base, all kinds of fighters. Fired at my ships. Planetary fighter base, so we had 36 fighters come up from the planet to fight. There were so many fighters, the base only has 4. But there were 36 that came up from the planet. With all the bulwark defense batteries I had, we made sure we had those. It went pretty well. Excuse me. While that invasion is going in, let me try to get the defense a little happier with us again. Oh, not quite yet. Wait a few more months before I give them another game. Alright, so we are now... sure, we'll accept that. So world. So even with the militia that they raised. And at this point in the game, there are a lot of planetary defense units. Invasions are relatively straightforward. If you just forces, it becomes harder later on. But at this point, on top of this, so that's at least good. End up taking this planet. Now that was a much bigger planet, Maxis, which was a pretty small world, but we took 1.5 billion, so Upper Weevil is a bit more, to say the least. Significantly in our favor now. That's really suggest that there's something going on here, but let me just turn on my little display here. There's just, I don't see why I would be having an issue here. Again, pretty low. I'll crank this down to 40%. Crank this down a bit just in case. Let's try that and see if that makes any difference. It's using a few fewer cores now. But again, OBS is telling me that it was not stressing at all. So it's still hard to understand why it was doing worse in the battles. Their defense fleet, which has one ship left responding, it's here. So we've got our attack fleet now going through other targets in the system, and all the fleets that were in the system are now basically going to work their way through these bases. I'm happy to let that transpire and see if they send some ships into there. Defense forces here, unfortunately, seem to have gotten a bit wrecked in the end. Their second fleet is down. Invasion fleet's damaged. They sent in another defense force there. So what I wanted to do was see how this fleet's still building. Alright. To help retake Maxis. So we're going to go for our main spaceport on Aflaxis. And we will let that build there. For instances like this where you're building during war, it can be advantageous to, the main way you can do that is branch. So I have small spaceports. If I look at the next one here, it gives me the construction yard V3, which speeds up my construction. Also gives me medium spaceports. We'll go ahead and queue that. You also have facilities like this, like the in your empire. We'll go ahead and queue that too, and you can eventually get better and better versions of those until you find once in a galaxy wonder type stuff. But otherwise it takes a while. One of the things about Distant Worlds, it is a bit of a game of logistics. Ideally, when you move, you prepare the way before you move. You have the resources you need, you make sure you have your bases set up the way you want, your fleet's pre-positioned, and then you go ahead and do what you need to do. If you try to wing it way, then it can take time to recover from that, and during that time your enemy can make pretty big inroads against you. I'm good at demonstrating that on these streams, because I try to move a little too fast. Garrison around Maxis, it's still a very small world to take. We could probably just snipe it with an invasion. They're strong enough that they would not be able to take out all of the before they actually got to the planet. They just don't have that level of defenses yet. So, sure. Yeah, they're picking targets of opportunity now. Some other orders, but let's plan on going for Maxis next. And these are the fleets of theirs that we know about and where they are. Alright. Stream is OBS sending out is one question. I'll just say that OBS claims that it's doing 6200 kilobits per second. So again, 60 frames per second, 0 dot frames. It's about 6,000 kilobits. Wouldn't be any issue from my side. Except that I really think it's probably a Twitch issue. This is the first time I've had to keep Twitch app to just get it to actually keep up with chat. So I'm guessing something else is going on. Alright, let's send to Conley. See if chat has caught up again. Saying they're trying to fix the problem, so I'm not sure what's going on, but I think it's something going on. Now I don't want to go and attack Kandrella, because that's... the Kwamino are also there. The Kwamino are now friends. We're just going to try to retake Maxis, and maybe we can get a favorable end to this war, and I've only got about 15... I'm not streaming... what is it, 1440? Let me double check the settings for that, if I have been doing something wrong. Too good quality stream. Okay, well... is that something that video capture side after the end, or are we going to then have a video after the end that is also stuttery? But I apologize for any issues that I may have caused here. I am not the world's most talented or experienced Twitch streamer. This is something I only do when they tell me I need to. Alright, so my fleets are getting ready to load stuff here. They're they've left as large as I would like. Let's actually crank up our garrison policy a bit. No, not yet, Ectarians. actually set the attack fleet to home base here, nearby, as much as we reasonably can. We don't have the resource here, we just took it. Oh, we actually don't have the money, that's unusual. I've been spending too much. Let me just let our money refresh a bit, and then we will build a we have enough to just go ahead and take this, so we're just going to go ahead and do that. Let's take this, and I think we can use both of our fleets for that instead of reloading. And I think they have enough escort ships in there that even with the second fleet being this frigates, escorts, I think they'll be fine. They'll make what they've got. Then we can close if the Daewoo are willing. Oh, another defense fleet jumped in. So they've got an attack fleet of defense was there. So the AI is actually being pretty good about this. The video afterwards should be okay. We'll hope for that. And I'll double check everything in March. Hopefully by then everything will have been sorted. We're going to go and bring the war to a close for the end of the stream. As you can see, it's still building. It's going to take time to build that up. And we're building our construction techs after that. Tech progress is pretty good. We do have... Oh, there's a new one we should build. We do have a whole bunch of research stations. Alright, so we've got a defense fleet that came in on this that kicked. But the two invasion fleets are doing just fine. Alright, there's some defense force coming in. Looks like their attack fleet left while attack fleets will do. But that's good for us because that was the bulk of their space power there. So we've got our troop transports here. When they get close enough, they'll start sending them there. Going in. Small planet, it's not going to be a problem. When there aren't very strong defenses is sort of keeping them, not letting yourself get trapped by enemy fleets that are too strong. A lot of your fleet strength, then obviously things can turn around pretty quickly for you. But so we've done this. We are now at 12. Positive on the war score. Military ship-wise, they ended up actually destroying more of ours than we did. More other ships, more troops. Let's see if they're at all interested in declaring an end to the war. We are at the point where I'm going to have to declare an end to the stream either way. So let's... They will accept the deal. Alright. Would they accept in giving us some other things too? No. We can give them back a general. Back an admiral of theirs that we captured and see if we can get some more mining stations for that. Where's that one? Oh, this one's there. Oh good, so they're happy with all that. Let's do that. Alright, so we entered the war. And we gained this territory. And we gained some mining stations as a result of that. We can now take a breather. Build up our military academy. Build up our construction. Then the next step would be to go and try to see if we can take out their homeworld. We're probably going to need a third, though maybe not, actually. It looks like they stripped it of troops pretty well after this last war. It's still 6.5 billion, maybe for next time. So I'm going to pause it here and say thank you to all of you. I hope the video afterwards will be, we'll double check our, well, Kurosame, I've tested the stream before and haven't, we don't test it every single time, unfortunately, but I'm sorry that it didn't work out well for you. Hoping that the video afterwards will be fine. And if not, we'll get all this sorted out before the march. And sorry for the issues, everyone. I hope you otherwise got some good info from this. And again, there will be a new public later this week, is our plan, with a lot of these new things like the fleet engagement ranges I was showing you. And we have the stellar, all the policy preferences for